Hello, this is Danielle here at the Black Healing Matters podcast, where we give you ideas to hopefully move you one step closer to your healing. And today is Monday. Yay, happy Monday to you. I'm a big fan of happy Mondays because happy Mondays lead to better Tuesdays. And, then once you get to Wednesday, the week just slides right on by. So happy Monday to you. And today on the show, we are talking about mental health. Yes, it's Mental Health Monday. And, as Black folks in the Black community, mental health is not often a topic of conversation around the dinner table, if you understand what I mean. And also in many communities, not just in the Black community, but especially for Black folks, we have a long history of mistreatment with the medical establishment, particularly in the U.S. And that has bred such a level of distrust and such a stigma around mental health that it leaves many of us too afraid and apprehensive to even think about raising our hands to say, hey, I need some help here. But the truth is that, we being human beings, right, Homo sapiens, we all need some help once in a while. And that's just the truth. And, in our community, when you tell somebody, I need some mental help, they might tell you something like, go talk to your mom. Don't you have some friends you can talk to or something? And you know what? That's all fine and good. Talk to your friends, talk to your family. But sometimes the issues run deeper than that. Sometimes, you don't feel comfortable talking to your friends or family or anyone because the issue might be about them. Right? They might be at the root of your issue in some way, shape, or fashion. And so today, on Mental Health Monday, I want to talk about therapy, and particularly the types of clinicians out there that administer therapy, and just really open the conversation around this topic, because I know that many of us in our community and others, but in the Black community, many people suffer in silence. I know we all have a family member who you could probably guess, or like they've been diagnosed with a mental health disorder. And a lot of times that diagnosis doesn't come until something really disastrous happens. Furthermore, it doesn't have to be that deep to warrant going to get help or talking to someone, a professional. What I'm saying is, we don't have to wait until our whole lives crumble and fall apart and we're on the edge of disaster and chaos before we decide to clean our mental house and really get some professional help to do so. And so, I see counseling, therapy, all of it, as even coaching, as a way to, like I mentioned, clean our mental house. Just as you clean your physical body, externally, you clean your home, the environment in which you live. You even clean your car, right? Which, is your vehicle that you drive. Well, what about your mind? What about cleaning up that toxicity that has been festering in your mind? And we know, you know what I'm talking about. So again, instead of waiting until the mess is out of control, the the house is growing literally like mold and bacteria, and nobody would wait until, nobody in their right mind at least would wait till their house got that bad, that dirty, to decide to clean it or even call a professional. And so the same goes for your mental health. Don't wait until the wheels are falling off before you decide to make a very selfish, I'm going to say selfish, because this is a true act of self-love and self-care, to decide for yourself that you need to speak to someone to get help with whatever issues life is throwing at you. And I believe, honestly, that everyone, no matter who you are, no matter how happy you are, quote unquote, no matter, what you have or how much you have or how little of it you have, everyone at some point in their life needs a sounding board. Then you need an objective sounding board, someone to give guidance at times, or someone just to listen and reflect at times. And in each type of clinician we're going to talk about is trained to do different things. And so in the next segment, we're going to discuss the difference between counselors, psychiatrists, and psychologists, right? I want to make that clear. Counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists. 3 different types of clinicians that are often kind of like mixed, and I didn't really know until I really started learning about this stuff, the difference between them. So we're going to talk about the difference between those, and then you can make a decision for yourself and maybe even for your family members to make it okay to open this conversation in those circles. All right, be right back in an instant and let's talk. All right, so we're back at it, and as promised, I want to discuss and kind of differentiate very briefly between these 3 types of mental health practitioners that are very useful, and they have their own merits, but they're really often mistaken and kind of used interchangeably. And so they do overlap in many ways, in many cases, but they do differ on a number of different platforms. So number one way that they differ greatly is in education. Their level of education is usually quite different, and so that's one thing to note. So for example, we're talking about counselors first. So counselors generally have a lower level, require a lower level of education, usually like a master's level education, whereas a psychologist and a psychiatrist would require a PhD or a doctorate degree. So the counselor, yes, they're trained. They have a license. Usually they're licensed in counseling. And they usually have a master's level of education. And so they can kind of give you, some kind of general mental health care. I guess that's the word for it. Care. They're a good person to kind of talk to. But if you're looking for more of a mental health diagnosis, like if you're worried that you may have some kind of disease or illness, then a counselor would not be able to give a diagnosis. You'd have to go to a psychologist. And so psychologists actually they are licensed, of course, and they have usually a doctorate level of education. And so they would be able to conduct therapy sessions and then diagnose your illness. So, again, they are quite different from counselors in that they are more educated. They can make a clinical diagnosis. And they differ from psychiatrists in that psychiatrists are actually medical doctors. So psychologists are not medical doctors, whereas psychiatrists are. Psychiatrists actually can prescribe medication. And psychiatrists may or may not even do therapy. They may not even work clinically. But they can prescribe medication. And so psychologists, and I know I'm going back and forth here, but I hope you can hear the difference. Psychologists are often the ones who do like research, and they often do therapy in clinics, and they even in medical environments, whereas the psychiatrists, they work strictly on the medical side of things. And they're able to, as I mentioned, prescribe medications to help with mental illness and mental care conditions. And so I hope this kind of differentiation gives you a general idea of, where you might go depending on the type of problem or issue that you may be experiencing. Or again, you can pass this information on to someone who may need it. Just share this episode with them. You don't have to tell them. You don't have to say point blank. But just share this with them. Nonetheless, a counselor or even a coach or social worker may be a good place to start, because they can kind of point you in the right direction as to whether or not you need to talk to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. So start with a coach or even a social worker. And they're they're not so pricey as well. They're usually more affordable. So that's a really good place to start. All right, folks. I know this is kind of a touchy topic. And so on that note, I want to say to you, be blessed. And as always, not only does Black healing matter, but Black mental health matters. Until next time, Black healing matters.
Hi Danielle, it's Jared from Slangsmith. I want to say thanks for covering this very important topic. I know personally it's something I've dealt with challenges with mental health for my entire adult life. I'm a vet, and I didn't have any really acute traumatic experiences during my time, but there's just something about that lifestyle and that being in some of the places that you are, it can create some challenges when you come back to the regular world. So, I've dealt with homelessness. I've dealt with, just the difficulties go around divorce. And so there are a lot of things that I know contributed to challenges around mental health, but I did get help. So I really appreciate you covering this.
Hey, Slangsmith Radio, Danielle here at Black Healing Matters, and I just want to say thank you for sharing so candidly and so openly about your experiences, because I know that there are people listening, there will be people listening, maybe long after this is recorded, that will be blessed and receive healing through your words. And so thank you for your kindness, your bravery, and your courage to speak openly on this topic. It was not an easy topic for me to cover myself, but I have also sought help for just someone to talk to and be a sounding board when things get rough. And so know that you're not alone and that you are very much so appreciated. And your honesty and candor is refreshing and inspirational. So I hope that you're having a wonderful Mental Health Monday. And as always, be blessed, and Black Healing Matters.
The podcast you just heard was recorded with Anchor. If you want to make your own, download the Android or iOS app completely free from anchor.fm/podcast. That's anchor.fm/podcast.